Ladies and gentlemen, just wow! I'm so glad that you opened this video because it is expected that tomorrow Putin will make a huge announcement during St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. And those people who are very close to Putin are even talking about the potential end of war soon. So, which statement Putin is most likely going to make tomorrow? What are the chances of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine? And if so, will Ukraine agree for negotiations? And these are the questions that we'll be talking about in today's video. What's up, investors? Zoltan Darabos and people of Reddit, it's the Russian dude, and this is your daily update on Russian-Ukrainian war as of Thursday, June 16th. You can see the main events of the day to my right, along with the timestamps. Alright, so please pay attention right now, because probably this is one of the most important events in the last couple of weeks. And what I'm talking about here is this speech that Vladimir Putin is about to make during St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, which will happen tomorrow on Friday, June 17th. The first thing to mention is that one of his closest friends, the press secretary of Russia, Dmitriy Peskov, mentioned is that this speech will be extremely important. He obviously did not give us many details, but he kinda hinted that Putin will only be speaking about sanctions and the new world order. And so, in my personal understanding, I would definitely not expect that Dmitry Peskov will say that Vladimir Putin is going to try to make peace negotiations with Ukraine. Because first and foremost, Vladimir Putin needs to make this statement himself. But you know what? There are so many hints and signs which point to this fact that Vladimir Putin might speak about potential end of the war with Ukraine in this speech. And one of the first signs is the statement by probably one of the closest friends of Putin, Ramzan Kadyrov, who was talking about the health of the president. Ramzan Kadyrov basically said that at this very moment Vladimir Putin is healthy and all this information about the cancer is basically fake news. But what's even more important in this statement is that Ramzan Kadyrov mentioned is that Vladimir Putin is ready to end this special military operation to be as less harmful for Ukrainians as possible. And the key word combination in this sentence is to end the special military operation. Another potential sign that this might happen pretty soon is this statement by Mikhailo Podolyak, who is considered to be the potential successor for Vladimir Putin. He was basically saying that at this very moment Russia is extremely interested in resuming the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. He mentioned that one of the top priorities for now will be to cease the fire. And most likely the reason for this statement it is because Russia understands that the Western weapons to Ukraine are coming. Which is basically exactly what we were talking about in these videos for the last couple of weeks. And for those of you who are new here, this is basically about this statement by, for example, Alexei Arestovich, who was saying that as soon as Ukraine gets all these offensive weapons, this is when they can start counterattacking. And it is estimated that these weapons will arrive somewhere in the middle of this summer. And so right now I'll be quickly showing you updates of the map of the war so you have a better understanding that time is on Ukraine's side. So first of all is the update about the situation in the east of the country, specifically the battle of the Donetsk. At this very moment Russia is actively advancing from the north of this city. And it is estimated the majority of the city's territory is under control of Russian army. With the only one exception is the territory of Azot factory, where the majority of Ukrainian people are hiding at this very moment. Besides this main direction, Russia is also trying to attack from the west and from the south. But as for now, Ukraine is showing significant resistance in these areas. In addition to that, Ukrainian forces are getting closer to the city of Izum, which basically means in case they are successful, they can completely eliminate the western direction for Russia. And now really quick about the situation on the south. If you remember from my previous video, right now the main number one goal for Ukrainian forces will be to destroy the Crimean bridge, which is the only land road that connects the territories of Russia and Ukraine. And in case this bridge is destroyed, in the best case scenario for Ukraine, as soon as they liberate the south of the country, this is where they can start liberating the whole peninsula. And the reason why they will not be able to do this is because Russia will no longer be able to reallocate its resources as quick anymore. And now let's talk about this bridge really quick. Besides being the only land road which connects Crimean peninsula with Russia, which allows to send reinforcements pretty quick, this bridge is also the symbol of Russia. And so in case this bridge is destroyed, this will not only disrupt the reinforcements, this will only significantly impact the morale of Russian army, which as you can guess has never been pretty high. And in addition to that, there have been several reports that the engineering materials of this bridge have been found on online, which basically means that whenever Ukraine gets access to these materials, planning how they will be able to destroy this bridge will become much easier. And in addition to this, you probably already heard about this notorious corruption in Russia and other post-Soviet countries, which basically means most likely some of the budget which is allocated to build this bridge was basically stolen. And because of this bridge most likely is not ideal. So it might take way less effort than anticipated to destroy it. And all of this is also confirmed by the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Alexei Reznikov. He basically says that as soon as Ukraine gets enough offensive weapons, this is when they will be able to retake Crimea back. And if you want to be a little bit more specific with the timelines, the Major General of Ukrainian Army, Dmitriy Medvedev, mentioned that Ukraine will most likely be able to start launching successful counteroffensive somewhere in September of this year. And so, as you can see, all these things that I just mentioned definitely point out to this fact that time is on the side of Ukraine. And it is in Russian best interest to end this war as soon as possible. Which brings me once again to the original statement of this particular segment, is that there is a chance that Putin will announce the end of war during his tomorrow's speech. If I am to guess, what might actually happen is that Putin will announce some kind of victory. Because if you remember, just a couple of weeks ago, Russia was able to liberate this Azovstal factory. But to be honest, it was never yet officially announced to the people of Russia. And in addition to that, the city of Donetsk is also almost completely liberated by Russia. And so what might potentially happen tomorrow is that Putin will announce that they liberated Mariupol from Ukrainian Nazis and they liberated the city of Donetsk so that people in Donbass region can finally live in peace. But another main question is whether is Ukraine ready for these peace talks. And if you remember the most recent statements by President Zelensky, it is basically that Ukraine will no longer accept the end of war without taking back all of its occupied territories. So I'm assuming that in the nearest future we will see whether the war will be over, or at least the fighting part of it, or whether Russia will try to end this war but Ukraine will not accept it. And so Ukraine will just continue taking back its own territories. And let me know in the comments which of these scenarios you want to see the most. And by the way, if you like this style of daily news reporting, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please make sure to check the link in the description if you wish to support Ukraine with us. You'll get some additional content and all the proceeds will be donated to Ukraine at the end of each month. Thanks so much and let's continue. Welcome to another episode of Ridiculous Russian Propaganda. And today we have this video report from the Ministry of Defense of Russia, which they said that they released for the very first time right after liberating Azovstal factory. And if you already remember, according to Russia, Azovstal was the main concentration of Ukrainian Nazis. And so in this video they are saying that they are going inside this factory for the very first time since Ukrainian soldiers/Nazis left it. And they also periodically emphasize that none of the items have been touched or adjusted. And of course, without a doubt, during this walk around the factory, they find all these Nazistic related items. They find suspicious books, prohibited emblems, some weapons, ammunition, and things like this. And in addition to this, they obviously find like the drug corner with all these used syringes. Which basically gives the understanding to a regular and unfortunately brainwashed Russian is that yes, Azovstal was this place where all these Ukrainian Nazis and drug addicts were located. And thank God Russia was able to liberate this factory. Yesterday, probably one of the most controversial politics of Russia, the ex-president of Russia, Dmitriy Medvedev, mentioned that he does not know whether Ukraine will exist 2 years from now. What he basically meant is this request by Ukraine to get some gas from Western countries. And the reason for this request is pretty obvious. It is because Ukraine does not have too many natural resources at this very moment and the winter is coming. And so one of the potential scenarios is that these Western countries will give Ukraine its gas with the delayed payment after 2 years. And you already know the response of Dmitry Medvedev. Why would they even discuss this? Who knows if Ukraine will even exist 2 years from now? And yes, once again, according to Russia and Dmitry Medvedev himself, the main goal of Russia in this war is to liberate Ukraine just from Nazis, which is in no way related to completely destroying the country. But anyways, the response of Mikhailo Podolyak, who is the advisor answer to the president of Ukraine was even more funny. He basically said that don't worry Dima, Ukraine will exist 2 years from now. The main question is where you will be 2 years from now. And here we have the statement of Sergei Chemizov, who is the head of Rostech Corporation. Rostech is basically this one big government company, and one of the subsidiaries produces weapons for Russia. So as you can imagine, this guy is pretty high in the government ladder. And so his statement basically goes as following: the import substitution does not make sense, especially from economic standpoint. And then he proceeds by saying that Russia must remain an active participant in the world economy, because if Russia isolates itself, there will be no development at all. And so here you have it, the statement of a very high government politician in Russia, which is completely different from the regular statements of the same politicians, which basically gives us an understanding that even those people among the higher government officials are already kinda changing their mindsets. So here is your quick update about these 3 mercenaries, 2 Brits and 1 Moroccan person who are being held captive in Donetsk Republic. So if you remember, earlier this week the Criminal Court of Justice of Donetsk Republic gave these people a death sentence. And the reason for this death sentence is because these people were fighting against Russia and participating in terroristic activities. And so as of today the court has not received a petition for pardon from these people. And the reason for this, it is because these people, they simply do not know which penalties they received. The sentence was given to them in Russian, and obviously none of them speak this language. And since then the sentence was also not yet translated for them. In between the court sessions they are being held basically in isolation. So basically yes, they don't even know that they're facing death penalties. It is also reported that their alleged lawyers have very limited contact with them. But nevertheless the countries will do everything possible to help those people and exchange them for probably Russian prisoners of war. And speaking about death penalties, the chairman of the State Duma of Russia, Vyacheslav Volodin, said that he agrees with the death penalties. He basically said that those people who give orders to kill other people, including civilians, must understand how severe their actions are. And because of this, they must also acknowledge the consequences that they might face, including death penalties. So my question now is the following: will his position remain the same whenever Russian military officers and politicians will also be potentially receiving death sentences because of the orders they gave in Ukraine? Don't know about you, but I'm pretty positive if the same Vyacheslav Volodin gets the same death sentence, his position will not remain the same. The Minister of Finance of Russia, Anton Siluanov, mentioned that he wants all the politicians of Russia to be driving LADAs. What he basically means here, or at least in my own understanding, is that all these Russian politicians are talking about how much they want to support Russia. And basically now is the perfect opportunity to do this by supporting Russian car manufacturer. And yes, just recently Russia announced its new model for this year, which is Lada Granta 2022. And the very basic model will not have almost none of the modern features. This brand new 2022 Lada will not have airbags, ABS system, fog lights, power windows, and you will not be able to adjust your seating up and down. And the price of this car will be approximately $10,000, which can make some of you think that okay, yes, it's kinda reasonable for brand new car, until you realize that the average salary in Russia is way smaller than in Western countries, which basically means that spending $10,000 on a brand new car is the equivalent of buying brand new BMW or Mercedes in Western countries. And one of the first Russian politicians who said that he will have no problem switching to brand new Lada was Dmitry Peskov, who is, if you know the guy, is the press secretary of Russia and basically the right hand of Putin. But at the same time, obviously these are just the words. Let's see if there will be actually action. Because even I can say yes, I'm ready to switch to a brand new Lada. But the question is, whether will I actually do it? The Russian infiltrator and the head of Donetsk Republic, Denis Pushilin, said that in case they're joining the territory of Russia, he wants it to join as the Republic and not as the Russian region. What he basically means is that he wants a little bit more independent rather than he will just become another region of Russia. And another thing that he mentioned is that as soon as Russia defeats Ukraine in this war, and obviously he did not use the word war, he said that the western part of Ukraine must be given to Poland, Hungary and Romania. His justification for this statement is that basically Poland is already looking to take some parts away from Ukraine. Ukraine. And yes, if you've been watching my previous episodes, you already know what I'm talking about. And if you are not, now is the perfect time to subscribe to my channel so you'll know all these inside jokes. Thank you so much for your attention, check the link in the description, stay safe and see you tomorrow.